What's up, guys? Happy Saturday. Hey, Paul. Mm. A little opening night. Drinking a little Chartreuse. It's a French liqueur. The yellow Chartreuse. I'm gonna try to spell it here. That's not right. Chartreuse is spelled. Hold on. Very hard to spell, actually. Put a little too much lemon juice in it. It's a little tart. Actually, a lot tart. Moncloud. Hanging inside the rainy day, listening to Tom Waits. Heard of him, can't recall any songs. I know he's a folksy type of guy. With my forehead on the window. Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Audio should be good. Mr. Stratman. Stratman, hanging out by the copier. I just got into Aperol. Love the Aperol Spritz. I've had Aperol. Can't recall it. I actually have something really interesting inside. Make a long story short, which I never do. I went to a really cool restaurant that had a cool bar inside of it last Sunday. I was going to try to pick a cocktail off the menu, and I was struggling because nothing really seemed good. The bartender said, "Just tell me what you like." That's never worked out before. Usually it comes out with too many ingredients, and it's just a confused cocktail. This is the first time out of like the last 20 where that someone's asked me that, where it actually came back and it was amazing and clean. And I asked her what was in it. She said Chartreuse. So today I went out and bought some Chartreuse. It's not cheap. It's about 65 a bottle, but there's nothing else quite like it. So I will say it's unique. It doesn't have a close substitute. Lifetime, weekend, same thing. I live my life a quarter mile at a time. Listening to some jazz in the background. It's going to take the kayak out today, but got rained out. So you can see out the background here, it's quasi-sunny. But it rains every 30 seconds. I never lived in the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest. But today must be similar to what it feels like to live in Portland or Seattle. Yo, Art. Welcome. I feel like speaking like a villain today. One Cloud, Stratman, Yo, Art. I'm about to bust out some Oak Alley today as well. This is no. This is opening right here. I think it's time to bust out some Oak Alley. And Cloud says a friend had recommended a cocktail with Chartreuse, Cinar, not familiar with that. Prosecco, I am familiar with that. I have two of those, but no Chartreuse. I have the opposite. I've had the other two. I'll go pull it out because it is interesting, and I didn't actually taste it straight. I mixed it with gin because that was the most common cocktail. I also bought a lime squeezer or a citrus squeezer for the first time. Those double-handed. You cut a lemon in two. You put half in, squeeze with all your might, and in the YouTube videos, all the lemon juice or lime juice goes straight down. Not the case in the real world. When you try to squeeze a half a lemon or half a lime, even in the expensive tools, you better wear goggles because this is like the Seinfeld episode where George gets pulp in his eye. I had a couple close. I wear glasses, not when I do these, but I had it 3 feet away from my face, squeezing a lemon into a mixer cup, and there was lemon shots coming all at my face, even at a 45-degree angle. It didn't make any sense. It's like a biohazard. It saves you a little bit of muscle work trying to squeeze a lemon or a lime, but you can't control where that pulp's going to fly. Even when it's in an enclosed casing. Right, so I had a couple close calls. Anyway, I will be right back. Go get the other tobacco. I've never smoked in a screened-in porch. So I got these screens put in here about 3 weeks ago now, maybe 4 weeks. And I've rarely smoked out here with them open for an extended period of time. Airflow is about the same as an open patio, but you have to have all the windows open. Got my first pair of glasses a week ago. Welcome to the club. I used to wear contacts for about the age of 15 to the age of about 35, about 20 years of contacts. Never slept in them. Didn't try to get the dailies. That just seemed insane. I didn't want to sleep in them. People who can sleep in contacts, good on you. I mean, I've done it accidentally a few times, but it is not. It takes 2 seconds to pop them out. I can't imagine intentionally wanting to sleep in contacts. It freaked me out. The reason why is for anyone who's slept in contacts, it doesn't matter what style they are. 2 weeks, 1 month, 1 day. In my experience, the next day you've got to water that stuff up to try to take them out. Because if you try to take them out after you sleep in them, it will pull your eye, and it's a very weird sensation. It's a weird sensation just to touch your eyeball. It's a much weirder sensation to touch your eyeball trying to pull something off of it, and it's sticking. But that's what happens. Anyway, on to other topics here. Yeah, I'm not kidding. That happened even at 16 years old. Anyway, I'm going to move on to some Oak Alley here. Got a little bit of shag left, although it comes in a cake-like fashion. You get a lot of stems with Cornell and Deal stuff sometimes, but I don't actually go through and pick them out. If I see one, I won't purposely put it in the bowl. But there's a decent amount of stems in Cornell and Deal stuff. Not a major nitpick. To be honest, it'd be interesting to see if you can even tell a difference, if there's a few stems in a bowl or not. My guess is probably very few people could, but I never did that experiment. Is anyone else meticulous about, again, when they buy a cake or a plug, of going through it and trying to find stems? Again, I don't, but to each their own. Also, the allergies are kicking in like a mother. All right. Before I light up the Oak Alley, this is Chartreuse. For those of you who have never seen it before, I'd heard of it, but I never really thought about it or knew what it was until last weekend. It's a liqueur, obviously, from France. Got about 130, acclaimed 130 different herbs in it. I'm not sure there are 130 herbs, but it's made by monks in some monastery. Anyway, I've never tried it straight. I only mixed it. So I thought I'd do a little taste test here. I'm not sure how you're supposed to taste Chartreuse, but I have not the brandy glass, the bourbon tasters, or the whiskey tasters. It's a very common glass. You can buy in 4-packs. I also bought Galliano, which I bought it because it was botanical, 30 herbs and spices. What I forgot was the fact that it kind of tastes like anisette. I like black licorice, but I don't necessarily like it in liquid form. But I had to experiment. Anyway, I'm not going to taste test that right now. I'm going to taste test the Chartreuse Tobacco Pipes International. Welcome. Let's do a little taste test of yellow Chartreuse. They make two. There's a green and yellow. This is the yellow. I watched a YouTube review of Chartreuse, both versions, green and yellow, last night. They said the yellow one's easier to drink straight. The green one's it's more severe, I think. More extreme. It's probably the best way to say it. A lot of people like Fernet or Fernet. I always forget how to pronounce it. This kind of, it doesn't smell nearly as medicinal as Fernet does, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. For those of you who've had Fernet, obviously the color is wildly different, much lighter. But it's not a close cousin, but it is a cousin to Fernet. Again, much less medicinal, a little more sweet and light, but it's nice. It's actually very nice. I would definitely rather sip this than Fernet. Fernet's just a little too 1800s tasting, I guess is the best way I could describe it. Oh, but it's an experience. It has a front taste. It has a back taste. It kind of transitions in the middle, so it's definitely a complex liqueur. All right, time to light up. Sorry for the sniffles here. Good so far. This tin of Oak Alley is about probably a month old. I just cracked it about a week ago. Question for the audience here. I spent a lot of time and energy and resources in making this balcony as sound insulated as possible. So I can hear cars driving by. I'm curious how loud those cars are to you guys on the mic. Because I'd like to have future real business calls on this balcony, but I can't tell how distracting it is when a car drives by. Board of certification or something. Back in the Midwest, where liquor stores could be private, you could have big liquor stores, medium sized, and tiny. In the Southeast, like Virginia, North Carolina, at a minimum, uh, maybe Michigan is the same way. The selection is much smaller because it's all state run. Sal Vegas, Perique Liqueur de Tabac is an unusual drink made with St. James Parish Perique. I've never heard of that, man. That is strange. Oh, McLeod, you being serious? You can you can hear the cars that loudly. Gotcha. Okay. So I was asking in a serious way. So if you can give me an honest uh, answer, that would really help me out. Because mics have kind of built-in noise canceling, but you never really know unless you're on the receiving end. Gene Chartreuse is called. Oh, green Chartreuse. He uses it. Last flight. I think that was that Denzel Washington movie, Last Flight. Yeah, the chartreuse, almost all the cocktails that use chartreuse call for lime juice or lemon juice. So I bought both. Apparently, it's a nice interaction between the two. I don't have whiskey and I don't have Aperol, but perfect. Thanks, Ratman. I can live with a soft whoosh. Whooshes are okay. I juiced a lime. Strangely enough, lime juice is less harsh. At least in my small experiment. Old Hollywood, I would say probably. I don't know if there's any reason to do another factory tour. To be honest, I'm trying to think of is there any question or part of the process that I didn't cover already that would actually be informative? I'm not sure there is. Actually, the reason I wouldn't want to do another factory tour is because I would probably ask a lot of questions that are kind of unfair to ask, which is why do the blends taste so different year to year? And obviously that's not something that any blending company could answer. I know. It's all about new content. Hmm, that's nice. That's very nice. I was getting a cyclone effect on that last retrohale. Yeah, exactly. Hold the Hollywood. They wouldn't want to be subjected to the questions that I would like to ask because it's kind of an unfair question and they can't really answer. But you know, it would be interesting. Going back to the original question, when's the new factory tour? Screw the factory tours. I'm not even sure we call them factories. Probably shouldn't. Uh, but yeah, screw a factory tour. I'd be more interested in talking to a farmer of tobacco, to be honest. Exactly, exactly, old Hollywood. A farm tour of one of the bigger suppliers. The challenge would be is how do you find because the supply network of tobacco, I'm sure, is a little secret. I can't just call up Ladisi or Cornell and Deal. Ladisi owns Cornell and Deal out there in North Myrtle Beach. I don't think I can call up Jeremy and say, "Hey, can you put me in touch with some of your farmer suppliers?" I mean, maybe that's actually premature. Maybe I shouldn't say that'd be outlandish. But you know, for those of you who've been in the YTPC for several years, One Man Smoke, ONS, uh, has I shouldn't say did has a lot of farm tobacco farm videos because I think he's either part owner or helps out with a Kentucky Burley farm. He's got tons of Burley farm videos on his channel, but they don't really talk about the taste of tobacco. It's more about the art and science of growing tobacco. I'd be more interested in what is causing the change in taste year to year. Is it soil degradation? Is it climate? Is it maybe cost, where the higher quality tobacco with inflation is just getting more and more expensive, and therefore they're changing suppliers toward lower price? Again, these are questions that I wouldn't expect any company to answer, but that's what I want to know. All right, Sal, thanks for chiming in, bro. Appreciate it. I'm not sure who Bob Taylor's Ranch is, but Hollywood, are you serious? Tobacco in Vietnam? I would not have expected that. Wow. To take a big drag and to retrohale that much out of it, oh man. I've said many times that I rarely get a nicotine buzz or a nicotine vibe, but a long retrohale is a quick way to get one. I never use a pouch, Stratman. Let me see if I have it here with me. I use. I'll give you an example. So I bought this like 7 years ago. I've got a bigger pipe bag that holds like 7, but it's twice the width. The width of this is pretty slim. There's only 2 pipes in here, but they all come with a pouch. And if you can see, I cut it out right here because I don't want. I have a backpack, so when I travel, when I say travel, I mean like walk around town. I have such a huge backpack that I just carry. Sometimes I carry 8-ounce tins in the backpack. This idea of like one little pouch to put your Carter Hall in that, screw that. I'm never going to be that guy. I'm never going to put tobacco in my pipe bag. I got enough. I got like 2 cubic feet in there, so I have enough to carry a tobacco plant, to be honest. Amir, welcome, by the way. Amir's from Tehran, Iran. He's smoking some Samigowitz Bob chocolate flake, which comes in a green tin, has a dusting of chocolate, which I could smell when I opened my tin of Bob's chocolate flake, but I couldn't really detect it when I smoked it. Old Hollywood, WTF? It says there are 0 viewers, but yeah, I agree. The viewer count is not. It's not accurate. I've noticed the same thing. Right now, there's 1 person on, but I know there's more, so not worried about it. Paul, I want to thank you for inspiring me to retrohale. Appreciate that, Paul. Seriously. I started about a year ago after being a pipe smoker since 2008. Yeah, it is a big game changer. And on that note, I subconsciously tried something out on this call 5 minutes ago that I rarely do because it's kind of an extreme thing, but I'll demonstrate it one more time. Took a big draw, and usually I would make it one gentle retrohale push, stretched out like 5, 6, 7 seconds, and it's fantastic. And then I would think that's all there is, and I would just open my mouth and blow out the last 20%. However, about 5 minutes ago when I was seeing myself on screen, you can almost get a 99% push of all smoke just out your nose if you just use your tongue to keep pushing the smoke further and further up, and I'll try to demonstrate that here. I get a side profile. Actually, I'll do a side profile because the smoke will show up against a dark background. Let me just shift positions here too. And that's why I almost got a nicotine high in one draw. Almost. Get it burning. Keep it burning, preparing for the big draw. Short puff, getting ready for a long draw. And so here's the long draw. I always kind of cover it to get more draw. Otherwise, you might not get a big quantity of smoke. So That was not a big draw. It's hard to time these things. Now it says there's 0 viewers. I think it's easier to get a big draw in the first quarter bowl. That's the tobacco is fresh. There's plenty to burn. I got to about the midway point here. It's harder to get a huge plume. Plume is the word I was looking for. Ah, I remember the makeup trick. Yeah. Okay, there was that last 20%. You could see it came out the mouth because I just couldn't push it up through my nose. But it it's extreme. Doing retrohale over and over and over again with every draw. I think subconsciously I'm probably retrohaling every third draw, maybe. Just kind of a refreshing sense. But yeah, you can't if you do it every single draw, 80% of every draw, you'd probably be on the floor. To be honest, it's just something that subconsciously your mind just knows not to try it. But yeah, yeah, old Hollywood. That's what I meant. Yeah, obviously more blood vessels in the nose, closer to the skin. Old Hollywood. I would disagree with the first part of your statement. Retrohaling is inhaling. That's not true. Um, I mean, technically, if it's considered, all I'm saying is nothing's going down my throat. I am confident of that. Uh, sure, if something's touching the inner lining of your nose, classically is it classified as inhaling? That part I don't really care about, but it's not crossing the threshold of my neck. I'll put it that way. Ah, got it. Okay. Mm. We'll do one small other taste test here. Has anyone had Galliano before? It's usually the bottle you see at the back of the bar because it looks pretty. It looks like Mrs. Butterworth's kind of, but it's always up high in a bar, up in that shelf that they rarely reach for. But again, it looks pretty. Um, no one ever asked for it. It's used in hardly any quote unquote popular Applebee's type cocktails. But I think Applebee's stores it. Um, so we'll do a small taste of this. Again, it's going to be kind of anisette forward, I would assume. I didn't get Stratman's joke. If he did imagine the full chapters, he would write about flavor. I'm not sure what that means. It sounds profound, but I need an explanation. Again, I love black licorice. I love black licorice, but liquid form. I think you can pull it off if it adds a tail end aspect, but you don't want it to dominate the whole thing. Be very powerful. Anyway, here's Galliano. What's that Steve Martin 1987 movie about with him with a long nose based on a famous 1700s? Um, Book/novel. Maybe it's a short story. Yeah, Roxana. Yeah. Well, I meant the real original play. Yeah, there's Siriano de Bergacic. I butchered the last word there. Siriano de Bergerac. De Jeric. Close enough. Cyrano. Cyrano? Sorry. Cyrano de mm, Ber Berac. Berash. Berash. I'm gonna stick with that. Um, it's better than Uzo, I'll tell you that. There's a lot of black licorice there, but also a lot of herbal stuff surrounding the black licorice. It's definitely not a one note effervescent floral liqueur. It's black licorice surrounded by tons of herbal flavors. Very interesting. Contemplative, almost. For Chirac. Seriano of the Chirac. Got it. Colombia has the best liqueur anise. Anise. Their main drink is light anise flavored. It's nice. Interesting. When's the last time someone had a mosquito bite on their face? You can't see it now because my body has the ability to get rid of mosquito bites in about 6 hours. But the downside of that is I get stung all the time. Bit? People say bit, mosquito bite, but it's actually a sting. Anyway, I walked at the house yesterday around noon for maybe 2 minutes to cut some shrubs. I walked back in and I got stung right here. There's a huge welt, a mosquito bite welt. I was like, I have so much, it's so many uncovered parts of my body. Why would you go for the face? When I was a kid, no kids ever get stung in the face. As you get older, you get stung in the face. Maybe because there's so little blood flow in the rest of your body, they just go for the guaranteed blood flow, which must be your brain. And so the older you get, the higher up your body the stings become, to the point where in the final stages of life, you probably just get stung on the temples. I don't know. I never got Daryl Hannah. I have McLeod. I have one or two exceptions to that. I agree, though. In general, as an actress, I wouldn't like quote unquote follow her work or be excited about the new Daryl Hannah movie. But there are two movies that stand out, and Splash is not one. I don't think I could rewatch Splash if my life depended on it. Just not my kind of humor. Um, Wall Street, the movie Wall Street, Charlie Sheen, Michael Douglas, 1987. A lot of my favorite movies are in 87, 88, apparently. Blade Runner to a lesser extent for me, just because I a little less memorable. It wasn't a lot of speaking part for Daryl Hannah in that movie, but I liked her in. Oh, there was a 1990 movie about Sally Field, Daryl Hannah, Marigold Flowers, Marigold, um, all-star cast. Steel Magnolias. Sorry, I know I had flowers in it. Steel Magnolias. Interesting character there. I think there's another one. I just can't think of it. Yeah, good actress though. Never heard the phrase "babe sauce" before. Still, yeah. Man, it's getting chilly. I'm going to close one of these windows here.
It dropped 10 degrees in the last hour.
Strangely enough, the 1987 movie Roxanne, Steve Martin, Daryl Hannah, probably one of Shelley Duvall's better films too. Everybody remembers her from The Shining, but she had a pretty prominent role in Roxanne as well. Parenthood, I could almost guarantee she was in Parenthood. Maybe not though. All those ensemble cast movies are hard to recall. She was in Grumpy Old Men. I forgot about that as one of the daughters of one of the two guys. Clan of a Cave Bear, 1986. I never saw the Mother Goose movies. I'm a big fan of Robert Altman, but not his entire catalog. There's a movie that I know it gets a lot of accolades. I've never watched. I have a hard time watching it, I think. Nashville, mid 80s. Robert Altman's, my favorite movie from him is Shortcuts, which is around 1990. That was fantastic. Also, the movie Player, which I think he directed. Yeah, he did direct it. Okay. It's hard to find a good Pilsner or lager these days, and the older I've gotten, the the more my taste buds have turned toward more neutral flavors and toward, uh-oh, it's starting to rain now, and less toward more extreme flavors like IPAs and whatnot. It's starting to rain. Where did the question from software engineering come from? These caps remind me of the 1970s when beer bottles used to have pull-off caps. lot of people like to drink beer out of a beer glass. I'm kind of a fan of drinking beer out of a wine glass for some reason. I just don't like big pint glasses. I like things with a stem in it, or stem on it. Not a big wine fan either. But I'm a big fan of their glassware. I went down to Charlotte, North Carolina last weekend, and I visited this brewery, which is probably doesn't distribute outside the Southeast, but maybe it does. Old Mecklenburg Brewery, otherwise known as OMB. I haven't been on the other side of the country to see if it exists over there, but I think this one was a top 50 within this genre on Yelp. So the quality is there. Recognition, maybe not so much. I'm not a big goblet guy. I like dainty, small types of. I like small engines, and I like small glassware. And I like small pipes apparently as well. I had my big pipe phase is all over with. No more big pipes for me. I like to set small measurable goals. No, but I like Alfa Romeos. Alfa Romeo 164 was a really cool. You should Google that if you're not familiar. Alfa Romeo 164 from the late 80s, early 90s had. They stopped distributing to the U.S. right on the mid 90s for about 10 years, then they came back. But that 164 was gorgeous, inside and out. Shut these windows here. Now it's really starting to come down. Fans gonna get. Okay. Crisis averted. All STI, Alpha STI? I'm not sure what that means. I'm a lifelong Aufstieg. That sounds so specific. It must it must mean something. I learned to drive stick on a, God, what did I have? A 1998 Honda Accord sedan, which was fantastic. Bought it for $11,000 with 11,000 miles back in the day. That was a great car. Before Accords got super heavy, super long, super large. And then I had a Mazda Speed 3 after that with a stick. Also fun. Not for long highway trips, but fun. And that was the last stick that I had. But you never forget to drive a stick. I could drive a stick today. It's so funny how motor/muscle memory, I guess, sticks with you. Very similar on the motorcycle route. Once you learn how to drive a motorcycle, to a certain extent, you could take 5 years off and hop right on one, and the muscle memory or motor memory kicks right back in as well. I will say with this adaptive cruise that is now standard on most new vehicles, it does kind of make you a lazier driver. There's pros and cons, but with this new Subaru Forester I just bought a couple months ago, once I get on a highway, I do a lot of highway driving. You put on the auto cruise and lane assist, and you can't take your hands off the wheel for more than 10 seconds at a time, but it's kind of like a self-driving car. It's fascinating. You're definitely much less tired at the end of a drive. I'll put it that way. My best friend in high school drove a baby blue '67 Mustang convertible. Mm. Never owned a Mustang. Rarely been in one, to be honest. Although Camaros and Mustangs were super popular in my hometown. My older brother had a 1984 gray Trans Am that was his baby. I got to wash that a lot and drive in it, or ride in it, I should say. I remember offending my brother when I was 12 years old because I went on a camping trip with one of my uncles. And before that camping trip, I remember overhearing my brother talk about his 4-barrel carburetor in his 1984 Trans Am. So on the camping trip, I thought all cars had carburetors. This is about 1992, maybe. I was on the camping trip and I asked my uncle, "Hey, uncle, the car we drove here on, what kind of carburetor does it have?" And he laughed at me and he said, "David, modern cars don't have carburetors. Those are antiquated." So I got back from the camping trip, and the next time I talked to my brother, I uh, I told him that all modern cars have fuel injection and that carburetors are a thing of the past, and it really brought him down because he was not a technical guy. And I think he fiercely defended carburetors over electronic fuel injection, although I knew he didn't really know the difference. But I thought that was hilarious. I was trying to brag about my knowledge of cars, ended up insulting my brother or insulting his vehicle. Another thing, talk about road noise and whatnot. I didn't know they still made two-cycle mopeds, scooters. I thought all the loud scooters I've been hearing were due to people taking mufflers off of four-stroke, trying to squeeze out a little more top end. But no, I googled it. They still make two-cycle scooters that can go faster than four-cycle for obvious reasons. But those are the ones that I'm hearing, and they are crazy loud. Not on my street, but on an adjacent street. I thought two cycle was just for dirt bikes. I had no idea they made two cycle mopeds. How do we get him to tell us what he does for work? My God, it's top secret. There you go. Mathematics, data science. Straight answer. A lot of modeling, statistics, machine learning. I don't use the word of artificial intelligence because it's kind of a vague word that spans other things. Mm, a retrohale shop. I could think of a marketing campaign for a retrohale shop. That'd be interesting. Carbureted retrohale. I could see it now. Four barrel retrohale shop. We sell only two things: strong coffee and strong smokes. One thing I wish that I had learned as a kid, or maybe even just as an adult, actually, I wish there was not online, but I wish there was like, I could sign up for a 4 weekend course of automotive, more hands-on knowledge. I know a lot about specs, and I've read car magazines since I was a teenager, so I'm very familiar with theoretically a lot of aspects of suspension, brakes, engine, not so much electrical. But I'd love to sign up for like a Saturday morning course for 2 to 4 hours where you perform non-trivial automotive either maintenance or diagnostics. And even if you never really use it in real life, like that'd be fascinating. Same thing with plumbing. I think there's a huge unserved market for technical hands-on skills on mechanical things that you can only find out so much from YouTube, but you'd like to sign up for a course that really forces the knowledge on you, and you have to be tested or quizzed on the way back. A lot of things are just hard to learn unless you're really engaged for multiple hours over a certain amount of time. You can learn a lot from mathematics. I learn a lot about mathematics from self-study and YouTube videos and reading textbooks, but when it comes to mechanical things, hands-on, you can't really read about that. You kind of have to perform it, and those are the hard things to replicate in a single residential experience. McLeod, but I'm thinking of like custom small groups on weekends. I couldn't do it during the week, but I don't know. I think it'd be just kind of spitballing here, but an independent local mechanic could charge a pretty decent wage just to talk to a small group, maybe demonstrate a few things. I think that'd be super popular. A lot of meetup.com groups are about doing activities, but very few are focused on knowledge attainment and building a knowledge base with in a dedicated field with instructor led to a certain extent. Yes, you can buy a course on kayaking and go out with a group in kayaking, but when it comes to the more mundane things inside the house, in your driveway, there's not a big field there that supports that type of training. I haven't looked exceptionally hard, but those are my thoughts. Get yourself a desktop Stirling engine to build yourself. Oh, the kind of the Lego-ish type of models. I have seen those before. Get a Briggs and Stratton lawnmower engine and take it apart and put it back together. Easier said than done, Hollywood. Easier said than done. You'll get the knowledge and synthesis you're looking for quickly. That implies I would know how to take it apart. It also implies I would know how to put it back together. We're all born with strengths and weaknesses in life. Some of us are abstract thinkers, some more tactical. Um, but the hands-on stuff, I'm afraid to hang a picture. DIY has bit me in the butt many a time. Mm. Speaking of DIY projects, and now I'm talking about around the house, kind of in the house or in the garage. Any DIY projects that it went horribly wrong for you guys? I would love to hear a quick story. It could be landscaping, automotive, inside the house. Because I've also gotten into landscaping recently, and YouTube videos on how to spray for weeds, what to spray, how to fertilize, how to aerate your lawn, weed control, when to plant additional grass seed. That's a whole nother how to grow plants in an optimal way. A lot of tribal knowledge in those areas. Old Hollywood. I've been doing DIY study on Heinz von Forrester. I'm not sure what that is. Google it here. He's a guy. He's an Australian American scientist, apparently. Second order cybernetics. I'm setting on approximately 1.5 pounds of tobacco, maybe 2 pounds tops, these days. And that's kind of my cap. Anything over 2 pounds, maybe 3 tops. For me personally, I probably won't go over that threshold again. I'd like to place an order about once every other month. So all I really need is about 2 months worth of pipe tobacco, because at that point, like, the seasons are changing, your preferences are changing, tobacco is changing. But as long as I can have maybe like 5 tobaccos in the house at any given time, that's enough diversity for me. I don't want to go less than 5, and anything more than 10. Because I have this inability to not open tobacco that comes to the door, I will just open everything. I have no control in terms of opening tins. Nothing scarier. Nothing scarier when, as when you open up your pantry and you realize you have 10 50-gram tins. All of them are open, and all of them are getting drier and drier by the day. And you're like, seemed like a great idea to open them all up at the same time and try them all. But now you're in a race. It's almost like race against time with milk, trying to drink it before it gets rancid. Smoking milk, that's a whole nother thing. Very difficult. You're going to need a mentor for that. I've tried smoking milk many, many a time. Yeah, but Claude, you probably shouldn't buy anymore. How many tobaccos can you access without cracking open a new tin? If you have, I'll go ahead and give you my upper limit. Do you have more than 10 tobaccos that you can smoke today without cracking open an additional tin? If so, you haven't went out of control yet. And technically, a jarred tobacco that you're opening up over and over again counts, by the way. Just because it's in a ball mason jar doesn't mean that it won't get dried out. Those seals are never. I've had many a mason jar. I went away. I used to buy those 8-ounce mason jars, not the 16s, because those are a nightmare. I used to have about 20 8-ounce mason jars, but to be honest, I don't feel like they did much of a better job than just keeping it in the original 50-gram tin or 2-ounce tin for corn on deal. So I stopped bothering with it, to be honest. 100 plus easily accessible tobaccos. Yeah, mason jars. I know where your mind's going. Mason jars seemed like a great idea back in the day. I could buy 16 from the grocery store, relatively cheap. But then you got tons of heavy glassware in your cabinet or your cellar, and then you got to make your own cut labels, and that's an important point to bring out. The one thing I forgot about, I was like, 20 mason jars, piece of cake, but now I got to cut printer paper and write the tobacco on it and tape it with scotch tape. I mean, there's a long tail of effort in maintaining mason jar storage. This thing just has the label right on it. This is my mason jar. I would rather wrap this in cellophane than transport a 2 ounce tin to a mason jar and then write a custom label for it that will only last maybe one time. And then I got to do the whole process over again. So that's the real reason I don't use mason jars. It's probably half of it is about the labeling. And yes, I know that you could take an X-Acto knife and cut the label off and put it on the outside of the jar, but that's a ton of work, man. A ton of work. I've seen YouTube videos from a handlebar mustache sideburn piper, mutton chops piper. He had like an immaculate uh, mason jar collection, I believe, or some type of jarring collection. And he would cut the labels off of all his tins. I ain't got time for that, man. I ain't got time for that. Let me catch up on the comments here. Half go in jars, half stay in tins. I want to be able to inspect for mold. Put a U in the mold there. I've had tobaccos in jars for 15 years with no problem. Yeah, not a problem. It's just more of a maintenance thing for someone who buys different things a lot. That's my personal take. Also, another reason I don't use jars is because half of the stuff I buy is in the form where it comes in a brick or a plug, whatever you call it. I always forget the name. So it's already kind of densely packed. I'm not really. It's not like ribbon cut. With ribbon cut, that would dry out much faster. So I don't know. I'm just anti mason jar. That's all I'm saying. Paul, public. All I do is get a printer circles, peel them off. It's not easy, man. You got to have scissors and a marker. I just like low effort maintenance on my tobacco. I'm very lazy when it comes to this part of the hobby. It's a fascinating question and a great question, though. We all have our different. Forget about preferences. This is a good question to interject here. We all have our different little annoyances that we don't want to be bothered with. For me, it's the storage of tobacco. For some people, it might be pipe maintenance, pipe cleaning, pipe storage. But that part I got all figured out. The Breyer report can teach us all a lesson here. Effort is proportional to the payoff. I disagree. I think I think it's more about a ratio. I'm always trying to maximize the ratio of fun or enjoyment over level of effort. And so that's why level effort is, I'm always trying to lower it. But I see your point. It's good. It's good counterpoint. Also, 90% of my smoking happens outside the house now. Back in the day, not so much. So I had this huge backpack, and putting additional weight in here in terms of glass jars is also just it adds a ton of weight. Whereas the tin, probably 1/4 the weight. That's a good quiz for yourself. The problem is when the labels go missing, you try to guess what it is. You still won't ever know if you're right. That's the downside of that strap, man. There's no objective truth to what you're smoking to double check your guess. I don't mind the dry tobacco. It makes it easier to distinguish the flavors. Hollywood, I'll agree with that to a certain extent. I think all tobacco can dry out a decent amount with almost minimal impact, to be honest. However, there is that point where if you ever bought University Flake, yes, when you crack open a tin of University Flake, it's too wet. You need to dry it. But some of that European flake stuff, let's see if I can find it here. Some of that European flake stuff, after a few months, if you have it in your kitchen cabinet, I mean, this is still pliable and it's not breaking. And this is about a month and a half old. After another month, if I did this, it would just crack off. And dry Peterson flake, sorry, dry University flake, I do notice a difference at that point. So there's always like a threshold of dryness to where once it falls off a cliff, in my experience, the flavor falls off a cliff too. Most everyone here knows the trick that even if you have a dry tobacco, you can breathe moisture back into it to kind of re-moisten it. But there's only so much that can do. But I do that fairly often. Ah, that's a lot of work, Hollywood. To pre-rub out flakes, that's more patience than I have. But it makes sense. Anyone been watching the Johnny Depp trials? I usually catch up once a day with the summary. Looks like it's going in his favor though. I didn't know Johnny Depp was. I think he's like 58 years old. I didn't even know that. Time flies by. That sounds like my story, Stratman, not your story. But yes, I'm highly familiar. I think I almost broke a knife trying to cut 3P. You need like a samurai sword for that. Has anybody had the Jewish Mysticism series from Cornell and Deal? Daylight Warning? I have not, and didn't even know it existed. Well, boys, I'm going to call it a day. I got a Instapot in there brewing. I bought an Instapot about 2 months ago. I've used it almost every weekend. I don't know why I didn't buy one of those years ago, but I made some of the best stew and stew variants that I've ever come close to making at home. That's for sure. Anyway, I'm going to call it a day. Thank you guys for joining me, and we'll catch you next time. Happy Mother's Day.